Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the New Horizon and watched the stars. His ship was big, carrying 50,000 people to a new homeworld. The journey would take 3 more months. Jake had been captain for 10 years, and he loved the peaceful life among the stars. The human colonies were growing. Earth was too crowded, so people moved to new planets. The Galactic Confederation helped them find good worlds. Humans were still new to space compared to other aliens. Most alien races had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. "Captain," said Dr. Lisa Grant, walking onto the bridge. She was the ship's scientist who studied aliens and their history. "We're getting a signal from that old station." Jake looked at the screen. A dark metal structure floated in space. It was very old and looked broken. "Is anyone alive there?" "No life signs," Lisa said. "But the computers are still working. They're sending out old records." Jake made a choice. "Let's take a look. Maybe we can learn something." The New Horizon moved closer to the station. Jake sent a small team over with Lisa. She was excited to study alien technology. The station was from a race called the Vorthons. They had died out long ago. Inside the station, Lisa found huge computers full of information. Most of it was too old to understand. But one section caught her attention. It talked about something called the First Contact Wars. "Jake," Lisa called, over the radio. "You need to see this." The records were partly broken, but Lisa could read enough. 10,000 years ago, there had been a terrible war. It lasted only 3 years, but it nearly destroyed the galaxy. Billions had died. Whole star systems had been wiped out. The strangest part was what came after. Lisa found a law written by the Galactic Council from that time. It said, "Never provoke the Earthborn to true war. Let them sleep in peace, for their anger can break the stars themselves." Lisa felt confused. Earthborn meant humans. But humans had only been in space for 200 years. How could there be a law about them from 10,000 years ago? She copied all the files and returned to the ship. Jake read the records with her. They both felt worried. "This doesn't make sense," Jake said. "Humans are peaceful. We've never fought a big war in space." Lisa nodded, but she remembered stories from Earth. Humans had fought many wars on their home planet. They were very good at it. Maybe too good. 3 days later, everything changed. Admiral Carlos Rivera called Jake on the emergency channel. Carlos led the human colonial defense, but they mostly just helped with pirates and accidents. "Jake, we have a problem," Carlos said. His face looked tired and angry. "The Xanthari Empire just attacked New Geneva colony." Jake felt his heart sink. New Geneva was home to 2 million people. It was one of the biggest human colonies. "How bad is it?" Jake asked. "Gone," Carlos said quietly. "All of it. They used planet-killer weapons. Nothing survived." Lisa gasped. The Xanthari Empire was the oldest and strongest power in the galaxy. They had ruled for 50,000 years. Why would they attack humans? "Do we know why they did it?" Jake asked. "They claim we were building illegal weapons," Carlos said. "But you know that's not true. We barely have any weapons at all." Jake felt angry, but also scared. Humans had maybe 100 small warships. The Xanthari had thousands of massive battle fleets. It was no contest. Over the next week, more bad news came. The Xanthari attacked 3 more human colonies. Each time they said humans were dangerous and needed to be controlled. Other alien races in the Confederation did nothing to help. Commander Beth Taylor visited the New Horizon. She was a military expert who had studied alien warfare for 20 years. "They're testing us," Beth said. "The Xanthari think we're weak. They want to see what we'll do." "What can we do?" Jake asked. "They're too strong." Beth looked at the old records Lisa had found. She read them several times. "Maybe we're not as weak as we think," Beth said slowly. "These records, they're talking about humans, but not the humans we know today." Lisa had been thinking the same thing. What if humans were different long ago? What if we forgot our own history? Jake didn't want to believe it. Humans were builders and explorers, not warriors. They had joined the galaxy in peace. But more colonies were burning. The Zenthari were getting bolder. They started taking human prisoners as slaves. The other alien races watched and did nothing. Elder Vorthak was the oldest Zenthari leader. He had lived for 3,000 years. He sent a message to all human worlds. Humans are a disease, his message said. We will cure the galaxy of your presence. Surrender now, and some of you may live as our servants. Jake felt something he had never felt before. A cold anger that seemed to come from deep inside. He looked around the bridge and saw the same feeling in his crew's eyes. Lisa, Jake said, I want you to dig deeper into those records. Find out everything you can about humans and war. Jake, Lisa said carefully, what if we don't like what we find? Jake thought about the dead colonies. He thought about children being sold as slaves. He thought about Elder Vorthak's cruel words. Then we'll deal with it, Jake said. But we can't let this continue. Lisa worked for days, using the ship's computers to search old databases across the galaxy. She found pieces of stories, broken records, and half-remembered legends. Slowly, a picture formed. Humans had been in space much longer than anyone remembered. They had fought in the first contact wars. They had been so good at fighting that other races had begged them to stop. The strangest thing was what humans had done next. They had agreed to limit themselves. They had hidden their weapons and forgotten their warrior past. They had chosen to be peaceful. Jake, Lisa said, her voice shaking. I think we made a deal with the galaxy. We promised to be peaceful if they left us alone. Jake looked at the latest reports. 5 more colonies attacked. Millions of humans dead or enslaved. The Zenthari were breaking into human space like it was empty. Then they broke the deal first, Jake said. Lisa found one more record. It was very old and mostly broken, but one line was clear. The Earthborn chose to sleep. But if awakened by blood and fire, they will remember who they truly are. Jake sent a message to Admiral Rivera. Carlos, we need to talk, all of us. It's time to wake up. As the New Horizon changed course toward Earth, Jake looked at the stars again. They looked different now. Less peaceful. More like a battlefield waiting to happen. In the distance, space was full of Zenthari ships heading toward human worlds. They thought they were hunting weak prey. They had no idea what they were really about to face. The meeting on Earth was unlike anything humans had seen before. Leaders from every colony came together in the old United Nations building. Admiral Carlos Rivera looked tired, but his eyes were hard with anger. We've lost 8 colonies in 2 weeks, Carlos said. 15 million people are dead. Another 5 million have been taken as slaves. Ambassador Nicole Hayes had just returned from the Galactic Council meeting. Her news was not good. The other races won't help us, Nicole said. They're afraid of the Zenthari. Some even think we deserve what's happening. Jake Morrison sat with the other captains. He had brought Dr. Lisa Grant's research to the meeting. The old records were spread across the table. There's something we need to see, Jake said. Lisa, show them what you found. Lisa activated the holographic display. Images of ancient battles filled the room. Ships bigger than cities. Weapons that could destroy planets. And in the middle of it all, human forces that moved like deadly storms through space. This is from the first contact wars, Lisa said. 10,000 years ago, humans fought the entire galaxy and won. The room was quiet. Everyone stared at the images. That's impossible, said Captain Alex Turner. Humans weren't even in space 10,000 years ago. According to our history books, Lisa said. But these records come from 12 different alien races. They all tell the same story. She showed them more files, battle reports that talked about human ships appearing from nowhere, weapons that no one understood, strategies that seemed impossible. The humans of that time were different, Lisa explained. They were warriors, professional soldiers who treated war like a science. What happened to them? Asked Dr. Kevin Stone, a military archaeologist. They stopped, Lisa said simply. After 3 years of war, they won everything. Then they made a deal. They would limit their technology and forget their warrior ways. In return, the galaxy would leave them alone. Carlos Rivera stood up slowly. So we've been living a lie. We're not naturally peaceful. We chose to be peaceful. Yes, Lisa said. And now the Zenthari have broken that ancient agreement. A new voice spoke from the back of the room. Then it's time to remember who we really are. Everyone turned. An old man walked forward. He was tall and strong, but his eyes looked like they had seen too much. Carlos recognized him from old military files. General Ryan Brooks, Carlos said, with surprise. You're supposed to be dead? I was sleeping, Ryan said. Cryogenic preservation. There are thousands of us hidden around human space. Veterans from the old days waiting for the call. Ryan was 400 years old, but he looked 40. His body had been enhanced with technology that humans had forgotten how to make. I fought in the last Great War, Ryan said, the one where we decided to stop being what we were. I hoped I would never wake up again. He looked at the battle reports from the Zenthari attacks. His face became hard. But they've forced our hand, Ryan said. Time to show the galaxy why. Our ancestors made that law about never angering the Earthborn. Over the next few days, strange things started happening across human space. Old storage facilities began opening automatically. Underground complexes that people thought were empty suddenly came online. Dr. Kevin Stone led teams to explore these places. What they found shocked everyone. It's all here, Kevin reported to the emergency council. Weapons, ships, technology. Everything was just waiting. The facilities were massive. Each one could build thousands of warships. The designs were unlike anything humans currently used. These ships were built for one purpose: war. Engineer Tony Walsh studied the weapon systems. He was amazed by what he found. These aren't just advanced, Tony said. They're elegant, beautiful in their deadliness. Whoever designed these understood war better than anyone alive. In one facility, they found something that made everyone stop and stare. It was a weapon that could make stars explode. The instructions were written in old human languages that only scholars could read. We built this, Tony said quietly. Humans made a weapon that can destroy entire solar systems. Ambassador Nicole Hayes tried one more time to reach the Galactic Council. She sent them copies of the old records and the new discoveries. This is your final warning, Nicole said in her message. Tell the Zenthari to stop their attacks. Human. Patience has limits. The answer came back quickly. Elder Vorthak himself replied. Humans cannot threaten the Zenthari Empire, he said. We have ruled the galaxy for 50,000 years. Your empty threats amuse us. That night, General Ryan Brooks stood in front of the Human Colonial Council. The room was filled with colony leaders, military officers, and ship captains. The vote is simple, Ryan said. Do we lift the restrictions our ancestors placed on themselves? Do we become what we once were? The debate was short. Too many colonies had burned. Too many children had been taken as slaves. The vote was unanimous. Captain Alex Turner was one of the first to see the results. He commanded an exploration ship called the Retribution. It was small and lightly armed, built for peaceful missions. But when the restriction codes were lifted, his ship began to change. Hidden systems came online. Weapon ports opened in the hull. The engines upgraded themselves using technology that had been sleeping in the computer core. In 12 hours, the Retribution went from a science vessel to a warship that could fight an entire fleet. Alex wasn't the only one. Across human space, thousands of civilian ships were transforming. Cargo haulers became battleships. Colony transports revealed massive weapon systems. The Zenthari were about to learn why the galaxy had been so afraid of humans 10,000 years ago. General Ryan Brooks sent a single message to the Zenthari fleet that was heading toward the colony of New Boston. This is General Brooks of the Human Defense Force. You have 30 minutes to leave human space. This is your only warning. Supreme Commander Thektar led the Zenthari fleet. He had 300 ships, each one the size of a small city. He laughed when he received the human message. Humans threaten us with 12 small ships? Thektar said to his officers. This will be over quickly. He had no idea that those 12 human ships carried more firepower than his entire fleet. The battle lasted 17 minutes. When it was over, the Zenthari fleet was gone. Not defeated, not damaged, gone. Completely destroyed by weapons that Thektar had never seen before. Only one Zenthari ship survived, Thektar himself in a small escape pod. General Brooks allowed him to live for one reason, to carry a message back to the Zenthari Empire. "Tell Elder Vorthak that the humans are awake," Brooks said. "Tell him the ancient law still stands, and tell him we're coming." As Thektar's pod raced back toward Zenthari space, more human fleets were launching from hidden bases. Ships that looked like metal nightmares, crewed by soldiers who had been sleeping for centuries. The galaxy was about to remember why it had been so eager to make peace with humanity 10,000 years ago. Dr. Lisa Grant watched the fleet departures from Earth. She felt excited and terrified at the same time. "Are we doing the right thing?" she asked Jake Morrison. Jake thought about the dead colonies, about human children in slavery, about Elder Vorthak's cruel laughter. "The Zenthari started this war," Jake said. "Now they're going to learn how humans finish them." Admiral Sam Mitchell had been in charge of human shipping for 20 years. He managed cargo routes and helped lost ships find their way home. It was quiet, peaceful work. Now he stood on the bridge of the Warhammer, a ship that shouldn't exist. It was 3 miles long and covered in weapons that could crack moons in half. The strangest thing was that humans had built it 300 years ago, then hidden it away. "Status report," Sam said to his new crew. These weren't the same people who had worked cargo ships. These were soldiers who had been sleeping in hidden bases waiting for this day. "All systems ready, Admiral," said Colonel Dana Phillips. She led the Special Forces teams that would board enemy ships. Dana had been enhanced with technology that made her faster and stronger than normal humans. "The Zenthari won't know what hit them." Sam looked at the tactical display. Human fleets were moving toward Zenthari space from 12 different directions. Each fleet was small, maybe 10 or 20 ships, but each ship carried enough firepower to destroy entire worlds. "The first target is the Zenthari base at Kepler Station," Sam told his fleet commanders. "They have 100 ships there plus ground forces." Captain Luke Hamilton commanded the Devastator, another impossibly powerful warship. "Admiral, intel reports say they've got 50,000 troops on the station." "Then it's a fair fight," Colonel Phillips said with a cold smile. "For them." The human fleet moved through hyperspace like ghosts. The Zenthari had no idea they were coming. Their sensors couldn't detect the human ships until it was too late. Kepler Station was a massive, military base built inside an asteroid. It controlled 3 star systems and had never been attacked in 1,000 years. The Zenthari commander, General Vextar, felt completely safe. "Sir," said a Zenthari officer, "we're getting strange readings on the edge of the system." "Probably space debris," Vextar said. "Keep watching the human colonies. That's where the real threat is." He had no idea that 10 human warships had just appeared 2 million miles away. "Target acquired," said the weapons officer on the Warhammer. "Shall we announce ourselves, Admiral?" Sam thought about the 8 human colonies that had been destroyed. No. Just kill them. The human ships opened fire from impossible range. Their weapons moved faster than light and hit with the power of small stars. The Zenthari base shields, which had never been broken in 1,000 years, lasted exactly 3 seconds. Kepler Station was gone before the Zenthari even knew they were under attack. General Vextar found himself floating in space in an emergency pod, watching his base turn into spreading clouds of metal and fire. His entire fleet had been destroyed in less than a minute. "This is impossible," he whispered. "Nothing is that powerful." A human ship appeared next to his pod. A voice spoke in perfect Zenthari language. "General Vextar, this is Colonel Phillips. You are now a prisoner of war. Resist and die. Cooperate and live. Choose quickly." Vextar chose to live. Back on Earth, engineer Tony Walsh was working with technology that amazed him every day. The weapons humans had built centuries ago were beyond anything the current galaxy had ever seen. "Look at this," Tony said to Dr. Rachel Adams, showing her a device the size of a dinner plate. It can create artificial black holes. Rachel was studying the biological weapons that humans had developed. They were designed to target specific alien DNA while leaving other species completely unharmed. We could wipe out the entire Xanthari race without hurting anyone else, Rachel said. These weapons are incredibly precise. Tony nodded, but he looked worried. The question is, should we? This level of power, it's frightening. Rachel thought about the human children being sold in Xanthari slave markets. They chose this war. Tony, we're just finishing it. Across the galaxy, other alien races were starting to panic. The Catherian collective had been neutral in the conflict, but their leaders were old enough to remember the ancient stories. Ambassador Zrelik sent an urgent message to his government. The humans have awakened. Recommend immediate withdrawal from all systems near human space. The old warnings were true. The Altarian Federation went further. They sent a formal apology to the Human Colonial Council for not helping against the Xanthari attacks. We remember the First Contact Wars, their message said. We will not repeat the mistakes of the past. How can we help you end this quickly? But the Xanthari Empire still didn't understand what they were facing. Elder Vorthak called his war council together. Humans got lucky at Kepler Station, Vorthak said. They must have some new weapon, we'll adapt. Supreme Commander Thektar had survived the first battle, but he looked shaken. Elder, I've seen their ships, this isn't luck. They're using technology we don't understand. Impossible, Vorthak said. We are the oldest race in the galaxy. We know all technology. But even as he spoke, more reports were coming in. Human fleets were hitting Xanthari bases across 1,000 light-years. Each attack was perfect, overwhelming, and left no survivors except those the humans chose to spare. Admiral Sam Mitchell was studying the latest intelligence reports. The Xanthari were pulling back their fleets, creating defensive lines around their most important worlds. They're learning, Sam said to his staff. That's good. Fear makes them predictable. Captain Luke Hamilton had a question. Admiral, what's our next target? Sam pointed to a star system deep in Xanthari space. Thanix Prime. It's their main military academy. 50 years of their best officers are there. Sir, said Colonel Phillips, that's heavily defended. They have orbital platforms, ground shields, everything. Sam smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Then it's time to test the Nemesis. The Nemesis was the largest ship in the human fleet. It was 15 miles long and carried a single weapon, a planet cracker that could split worlds in half. Captain Ian Murphy commanded the Nemesis. He had been sleeping for 300 years, waiting for a war big enough to need his ship. Course laid in for Thanix Prime, Ian reported. We'll arrive in 6 hours. Remember, Sam said over the fleet channel. We want survivors this time. Let them see what we can do. Let them carry the message home. The attack on Thanix Prime was different from the others. The human fleet didn't try to hide. They appeared in the system like an announcement, their ships gleaming with deadly purpose. Xanthari defenders, Sam broadcast on all frequencies. This is Admiral Mitchell of the Human Defense Force. Evacuate all non-military personnel from Thanix Prime. You have 2 hours. The Xanthari commander, Admiral Kexvar, was confused. Why are they warning us? Because they want witnesses, said his tactical officer, who was smarter than his commander. 2 hours later, the Nemesis fired its planet cracker at the uninhabited moon of Thanix Prime. The moon didn't explode. It simply came apart, splitting cleanly down the middle like someone had cut it with a knife. The Xanthari fleet around Thanix Prime surrendered immediately. Admiral Kexvar sent a message to Elder Vorthak. We cannot fight them. Their weapons are beyond our understanding. Recommend immediate peace negotiations. Elder Vorthak's reply was short. There will be no surrender to humans. Fight or die. But across Xanthari space, whole fleets were laying down their weapons rather than face the human ships. Soldiers who had been proud warriors for centuries were running in terror from enemies they couldn't even hurt. General Ryan Brooks received a message from an unexpected source. Agent Sophie Clark was a human intelligence operative who had been working undercover in Zenthari space for 5 years. General, Sophie's message said, the Zenthari government is in chaos. Half their fleet. Commanders are requesting permission to surrender. But Elder Vorthak won't let them. Ryan smiled grimly. Then we'll have to convince him personally. The human fleets began moving toward the Zenthari homeworld. It was time to end this war the way humans ended all their wars, by winning so completely that no one would ever question the result. Behind them, they left a trail of destroyed bases and surrendered fleets. The galaxy was remembering why the ancient law existed. Never anger the Earthborn. Because when humans woke up from their peaceful sleep, they didn't just fight wars, they finished them. Fleet Admiral Peter Ross stood in the command center of the largest human fleet ever assembled. 200 ships surrounded the Zenthari homeworld of Zethros Prime. Each ship was a masterpiece of destruction, built by humans who understood war better than anyone in the galaxy. Status report, Peter said to his commanders. Orbital defenses are down, reported Captain Ian Murphy from the Nemesis. Their planetary shields lasted 47 seconds against our weapons. Ground resistance? Peter asked. General Victor. Kane led the human ground forces. His soldiers were equipped with armor that made them look like walking nightmares. Minimal, Admiral. Most of their army surrendered when they saw what our weapons could do. Peter nodded. The battle for the Zenthari homeworld had been surprisingly easy. Their mighty empire was crumbling like old paper. Any word from Elder Vorthak? Peter asked. Agent Sophie Clark had been monitoring Zenthari communications from inside their government buildings. He's in the deep bunkers under the capital city, still refusing to surrender. Peter looked at the planet below. Home to 12 billion Zenthari, it was the center of an empire that had ruled the galaxy for 50,000 years. Now human ships controlled its skies. Keep monitoring, Peter told Sophie. If Vorthak wants to hide like a rat, let him. We'll smoke him out eventually. Dr. Amanda Foster was working in the medical bay of the flagship. She had created biological weapons that could target Zenthari DNA specifically. Her creations could kill every Zenthari in the galaxy, while leaving other aliens completely unharmed. The deployment systems are ready, Amanda reported to Peter. We could end their entire species in a matter of hours. Peter considered this. The power to destroy an entire race was in his hands. The same race that had murdered millions of human civilians and enslaved human children. Not yet, Peter said. We want them to surrender, not go extinct. Dead enemies can't learn lessons. But even as the human fleet surrounded Zethros Prime, other events were happening across the galaxy. Ancient alien races that had hidden for thousands of years were coming out of their secret places. Ambassador Nicole Hayes received a message on Earth from someone calling himself Elder Kravik. His race was called the Eternals, and they claimed to be older than any known civilization. We request permission to speak with human leadership. Kravik's message said, we were present during the first contact wars. We know what your species is capable of. Nicole brought the message to President Ellen Davis, who led the United Human Colonies. Should we talk to them? Nicole asked. Yes, Ellen said. I want to know what really happened 10,000 years ago. Elder Kravik arrived on Earth in a ship that looked like it was made of living crystal. He was tall and thin, with silver skin and eyes that seemed to hold too much knowledge. President Davis, Kravik said, I bring greetings from the survivors. Survivors of what? Ellen asked. The last time humans went to war, Kravik said simply. My people remember everything. We were there when your ancestors broke the galaxy and put it back together again. Ellen and Nicole listened as Kravik told them the true history of the first contact wars. 10,000 years ago, humans were not the peaceful explorers you became, Kravik explained. You were conquerors, warriors who treated war like an art form. You had technology that could unmake reality itself. What happened? Ellen asked. You won, Kravik said. Completely. Totally. You defeated every alliance that stood against you. Then you did something that shocked the galaxy. What? You stopped You chose to limit yourselves and live in peace. You made the other races promise to leave you alone in return for you staying peaceful. Nicole felt confused. Why would humans give up that kind of power? Kravik's ancient eyes were sad. Because your leaders understood something that others didn't. Power without restraint destroys everything, including those who hold it. You chose to be better than your enemies. Meanwhile, back at Zethros Prime, Admiral Peter Ross was dealing with a new problem. The Zenthari had activated something hidden deep in their planet. "Admiral," said the ship's science officer, "we're reading massive energy buildups in the planet's core. It looks like some kind of weapon." Peter felt a chill. "What kind of weapon?" "Unknown design, sir. But the energy readings are off the scale. If it goes off, it could destroy this entire star system." Peter called an emergency meeting with his senior staff. The holographic display showed the weapon buried miles beneath the Zenthari capital. "It's a doomsday device," said Dr. Amanda Foster after studying the readings. "If they can't win, they'll try to take us all with them." General Victor Kane looked grim. "My ground teams can't reach it. It's too deep, and they have it heavily." Defended. "How long until it's ready to fire?" Peter asked. 12 hours, said the science officer. "Maybe less." Peter made a hard decision. Evacuate all non-essential personnel from the fleet. Prepare the planet cracker weapons. If that device starts to fire, we'll blow up their entire world before it can go off. But Agent Sophie Clark sent an urgent message from the planet. "Admiral, I've made contact with some Zenthari scientists down here. They say the weapon won't just destroy this system. It's designed to create a chain reaction that could wipe out dozens of star systems." Peter felt his blood turn cold. Billions of innocent aliens lived in those systems. The Zenthari were willing to commit genocide on an unimaginable scale rather than surrender. "That's it," Peter said quietly. "No more mercy." He opened a channel to the entire human fleet. "All ships, this is Admiral Ross. The enemy has shown their true nature. They would rather kill billions than accept defeat. We will not allow this." Peter paused, thinking of all the human colonies that had been destroyed. All the children who had been enslaved. "Authorization Code Omega is now in effect," Peter announced. "Complete destruction of the Zenthari Empire. No exceptions. No survivors among their leadership." Captain Ian Murphy knew what that meant. Protocol Omega was the human military's plan for total warfare, not just defeating an enemy, but making sure they could never threaten anyone again. "Sir?" Ian said carefully. "Protocol Omega means—" "I know what it means," Peter said. "Do it." Across the human fleet, special weapons came online. These weren't just planet crackers or star killers. These were weapons that could unravel the fabric of space itself. Admiral Julia Norton commanded the ships attacking Zenthari military bases throughout their empire. Her forces had been methodical, destroying targets but allowing surrenders. Now, her orders changed. "No quarter," Julia announced to her fleet. "Every Zenthari military installation is to be completely destroyed. Every warship, every weapon, every factory. Leave nothing that could threaten the galaxy again." The destruction was systematic and terrible. Human ships moved through Zenthari space like a plague of metal death. Worlds that had stood for millennia were reduced to floating debris in a matter of hours. General Victor Kane led his ground forces into the Zenthari bunkers beneath their capital. His soldiers moved like unstoppable machines, cutting through defenses that had been built to last forever. "Found him," Kane reported as his troops reached the deepest bunker. Elder Vorthak sat on his throne, surrounded by his remaining advisors. He looked small and old, nothing like the mighty ruler who had started this war. "Human," Vorthak said with what dignity he had left. "You have won. What do you want?" Kane removed his helmet, showing his human face. "We want you to understand something. This didn't have to happen. You could have left us alone." "Your species is dangerous," Vorthak said. "We were right to fear you." Kane nodded. "Yes, you were, but we were sleeping peacefully until you woke us up." Kane activated his communicator. "Admiral Ross, we have him." "Good," Peter's voice came back. "Bring him to the surface. I want him to see what his empire has become." As Kane's soldiers escorted Forthak to the surface, the old Zenthari leader saw his homeworld for the first time in weeks. The sky was full of human ships. His magnificent capital city was in ruins. His people were being held in detention camps. "Your empire is gone," Kane told him. "Every ship, every base, every weapon, we've destroyed it all." Forthak looked around at the destruction. "You've won. Why don't you just kill me?" Kane smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. "Because dead enemies don't spread warnings. You're going to live, Forthak. You're going to tell everyone what happens when someone breaks the ancient law." On Earth, Elder Kravik was finishing his story for President Ellen Davis. "This is the third time," Kravik said sadly. "3 times in our history, younger races have grown too confident and attacked humanity. 3 times humans have had to remind the galaxy why the law exists." "What happens now?" Ellen asked. Kravik looked at the reports coming in from Zenthari. "Space. The destruction was almost complete. Now humans will go back to sleep," Kravik said. "You'll limit your weapons again and choose peace. But the galaxy will remember this lesson for a few thousand years." "And then?" Nicole asked. Kravik's ancient eyes were tired. "Then some new empire will rise and think humans are weak, and you'll have to wake up again." Ellen felt the weight of history. Humans weren't naturally peaceful. They had chosen to be peaceful. But when that choice was taken away from them, they became something that could break galaxies. "Is there no other way?" Ellen asked. Kravik shook his head. "Your species is too powerful for any other way." President Ellen Davis stood in the ruins of what had once been the Zenthari Imperial Palace. The war was over. The greatest empire in galactic history had been destroyed in 6 months. Now came the hard part, deciding what to do next. Captain Naya. Brad Thompson walked through the detention camps where millions of Zenthari civilians waited to learn their fate. Brad had been a prisoner of war for 3 years before human forces rescued him. He knew what it felt like to be helpless and afraid. "They're terrified," Brad reported to Ellen. "They think we're going to kill them all." Ellen looked out at the vast camps. 12 billion Zenthari lived on their homeworld. Most of them had never even seen a human before the war started. "What do you think we should do?" Ellen asked. Brad considered the question. He remembered the Zenthari guards who had beaten him. He remembered the slave markets where human children were sold. He also remembered Zenthari civilians who had secretly given food to human prisoners. "The innocent ones deserve better than what their leaders gave us," Brad said finally. "But we can't trust them to govern themselves. Not yet." Admiral Julia Norton had the job of managing occupied Zenthari space. It was a massive responsibility. Hundreds of worlds, billions of aliens, and the ruins of a 50,000-year-old civilization. "The other alien races are sending aid," Julia reported in her daily briefing. "Food, medical supplies, temporary housing. Everyone wants to help clean up this mess." "Why?" Ellen asked. "A month ago they wouldn't lift a finger to help us." Julia smiled grimly. "Because they're afraid we'll get angry at them next." It was true. Across the galaxy, alien governments were falling over themselves to prove their friendship with humanity. The Catherian Collective had offered to share their advanced medical technology. The Altarian Federation wanted to help rebuild the destroyed human colonies. Dr. Chris Morgan was studying the psychological impact of the war on other species. What he found was disturbing. "They're traumatized," Chris reported to the Human Leadership Council. "Some species are so afraid of humans that they're abandoning star systems near our space." Ellen felt troubled by this. "That's not what we wanted." "No," agreed General Ryan Brooks, "but it's what we got. Fear is the price of power." Ryan had been thinking about this problem for weeks. Humans had proven they could destroy any enemy, but how do you govern a galaxy that's terrified of you? "We need to make some hard choices," Ryan said. "Do we want to rule the galaxy or do we want to go back to being peaceful?" Ellen knew what the right answer was, but it wasn't an easy choice. Humans now had the power to control everything. They could make any law they wanted, take any resources they needed, go anywhere they chose. But that wasn't who humans wanted to be. Elder Kravik provided the historical perspective they needed. The ancient alien had seen this cycle before. 10,000 years ago, humans faced the same choice, Kravik told the council. They chose to step back and let the galaxy govern itself. And it worked for a while, Ellen said. Yes, Kravik agreed, until the Zenthari forgot the lesson and started this war. Dr. Lisa Grant had been studying the old records from the previous human wars. She found something interesting in the ancient files. Each time humans won a galactic war, they tried something different, Lisa explained. The first time, they just left and hoped for the best. The second time, they set up a galactic government with strict laws. What happened? Ellen asked. Both. Times the galaxy eventually forgot and someone started another war. This is the third cycle. Ellen felt the weight of history. Humans were trapped in a pattern. They would win wars, try to create peace, and then watch as future generations forgot the lessons and started fighting again. There has to be a better way, Ellen said. Captain Ian Murphy had an idea. His ship, the Nemesis, was the most powerful weapon in human space. It could crack planets and kill stars. What if we don't completely disarm this time? Ian suggested. What if we keep some of our weapons active but hidden? General Victor Kane nodded. A deterrent. Let the galaxy know that human power still exists, even if we choose not to use it. Ellen liked this idea. A sword hanging over the galaxy's head. Peace through the threat of overwhelming force. They began planning what became known as the Eternal Watch. Human fleets would be hidden throughout the galaxy, sleeping but ready. If any species grew too aggressive, the humans would be there to stop them. Agent Sophie Clark had spent years working undercover in alien governments. She understood how they thought. We need to be subtle about it, Sophie advised. Let them know the power exists, but don't rub their faces in it. Fear should be mixed with hope. The plan they developed was complex but elegant. Humans would publicly disarm and return to peaceful exploration. Most of the human fleet would be deactivated and hidden. The terrible weapons would be locked away. But a few ships would remain active, patrolling the galaxy as peacekeepers. They would help with disasters, stop pirates, and mediate disputes between species. Most importantly, they would serve as a reminder of what humans could do if pushed too far. Elder Vorthak was brought before the Human Council for his final judgment. The old Zenthari leader looked broken, nothing like the proud emperor who had started the war. You wanted to see what humans could do, Ellen told him. Now you know. I underestimated your species, Vorthak admitted. We all did. Ellen nodded. That was your mistake. But we're going to give you a chance to fix it. Vorthak looked confused. What do you mean? You're not going to die, Ellen explained. You're going to live. You're going to spend the rest of your very long life traveling the galaxy and telling everyone what happens when someone breaks the law about angering humans. Ellen leaned forward. You're going to be our warning to future generations, a living reminder of the price of war with Earth. Vorthak understood. It was a punishment worse than death. He would spend centuries being a symbol of failure and defeat. But it was also a chance for the galaxy to learn without having to repeat the same bloody lesson. The resettlement of the Zenthari took 2 years. Most were relocated to peaceful worlds where they could rebuild their lives. Their military was completely disbanded. Their weapons were destroyed. The young Zenthari were enrolled in schools where they learned about other species and the importance of peace. The old Zenthari, the ones who remembered the Empire's glory, were bitter but helpless. Captain Brad Thompson worked with the resettlement teams. He saw former Zenthari soldiers working as farmers and teachers. Children who had been raised to believe in Zenthari superiority were learning to live alongside other species. It's working, Brad reported to Ellen. The next generation of Zenthari will be different. But Ellen knew that memory was short in the galaxy. In a few thousand years, new species would rise. Young aliens would hear stories about human power and think they were just myths. And then someone would test the humans again. Admiral Julian Norton was overseeing the final withdrawal of human forces from Zenthari space. The occupation was ending, but the message had been delivered. The galaxy is quiet, Julia reported. No major conflicts anywhere. Even the usual border disputes have stopped. Ellen smiled sadly. Peace through fear. It works, but it's not what we want it to be. General Ryan Brooks was returning to cryogenic sleep. His job was done, and he hoped he would never have to wake up again. The next time this happens, Ryan told Ellen, the weapons will be ready. The soldiers will be waiting. Maybe the war will be shorter. Ellen hoped there wouldn't be a next time, but she knew better. The galaxy never seemed to learn permanently. Dr. Chris Morgan published his final report on the psychological impact of the war. His conclusion was simple. The galaxy would remember human power for about 3,000 years. After that, memory would fade, and confidence would return. History is a cycle, Chris wrote. Humans choose peace. The galaxy forgets why. Someone tests human patience, and then humans remind everyone why the ancient law exists. Ellen stood in the same place where the war had started, the ruins of New Geneva Colony. 2 million people had died here when the Zenthari attacked. Now it was being rebuilt with help from dozens of alien species. Jake Morrison found her there. The captain who had discovered the ancient records looked older now, marked by everything he had seen. Any regrets? Jake asked. Ellen thought about the question. The Zenthari Empire was gone. Billions of aliens lived in fear of human anger. The galaxy was at peace, but it was a peace built on the threat of annihilation. We saved the galaxy from a cycle of war, Ellen said finally, but we couldn't save it from fear. Jake nodded. Maybe that's the best we can do. As the years passed, humans began to return to their peaceful ways. The weapons were hidden but not destroyed. The soldiers went back to sleep but did not die. The fleet was scattered but not forgotten, and across the galaxy a new law was written and taught to every young alien. The Earthborn sleep, but they do not forget. Their mercy has limits. Their patience can break. Wake them with violence and they will end you with fire. This is the price of testing humanity. This is the law that keeps the peace. Elder Kravik lived to see the new galactic order take shape. Before he died, he left one final message for future generations. This is the third time we have seen human mercy. They could rule the galaxy as gods, but they choose to be gardeners instead. Honor their